The ground trembles beneath your feet. A deep, guttural roar echoes through the air, rattling windows miles away. Somewhere in the distance, beyond the skyline, a towering shadow emerges, rising from the sea like a nightmare brought to life. The world holds its breath. Is this the end? For decades, Godzilla has existed only in movies. A fictional monster, a symbol of destruction, a force of nature that mankind cannot control. But what if it wasn't just a story? What if, against all logic, a creature of this scale and power suddenly appeared in the real world? How would humanity react? Would we stand a chance, or would we simply become spectators to our own downfall? At first glance, the idea seems absurd. A creature over 300 feet tall, capable of leveling entire cities, sounds more like science fiction than reality. But history has a way of surprising us. Dinosaurs once ruled the Earth, some nearly as massive as buildings. The ocean hides creatures so large and ancient we can barely comprehend them. Even today, new species are being discovered in the deepest trenches of the sea, where life thrives under unimaginable conditions. Is it truly impossible that something like Godzilla could exist? And if it did, would we be ready? Most people assume that if a monster of such scale emerged, modern military forces would handle it with ease. After all, we have tanks, fighter jets, and nuclear weapons. But would they really be enough? Could anything stop a being of that size before it turned our cities into rubble? Would our governments have a plan, or would chaos take over before anyone knew what to do? These aren't just questions for a movie script. They force us to confront a deeper reality. How prepared are we for the unknown? Throughout history, humanity has faced disasters that seemed unimaginable until the moment they happened. Earthquakes, tsunamis, pandemics, wars. Each time we've believed we were in control, only to realize how fragile our world truly is. If something as unpredictable as a real-life Godzilla were to appear, it wouldn't just be a battle of strength. It would be a test of everything we know about survival. Perhaps the real question isn't whether Godzilla could exist. Perhaps the real question is, if the impossible became reality, what would we do? If a creature the size of Godzilla suddenly emerged from the ocean, what would be its first challenge? Would it be the military, the cities in its path, or something much more fundamental? Something as simple as gravity itself? The idea of a real-life Godzilla is thrilling, but the moment we bring it into the real world, problems start to appear. A creature over 300 feet tall would weigh hundreds of thousands of tons, possibly more. But how would its bones support that much weight? Could its muscles even lift its own body? In the movies, Godzilla walks with ease, but in reality, every step might be a struggle. Even the largest land animals in history, like the Argentinosaurus, a dinosaur estimated to weigh around 100 tons, had carefully structured bones to distribute their weight efficiently. Could a creature many times that size even stand, let alone move? And then there's the question of energy. A predator of this scale would need an almost impossible amount of food just to survive. A blue whale, one of the largest animals on Earth, consumes around 4 tons of krill per day. A creature the size of Godzilla? It would need to eat constantly, possibly devouring entire ecosystems to sustain itself. But what if it didn't need food? Some theories suggest that Godzilla in the movies survives on nuclear energy, absorbing radiation as a power source. Could anything in the natural world function that way? The deep ocean holds secrets we still don't fully understand. Gigantic squid, strange bioluminescent creatures, even ancient sharks that have remained unchanged for millions of years. Life has a way of adapting to the impossible. Could there be something lurking in the depths, growing, evolving, waiting for the right conditions to rise? Or is Godzilla doomed to remain a fantasy, a creature that simply cannot exist under the laws of physics and biology? Maybe the real question isn't whether such a monster could survive, but whether the world itself could survive it. Imagine the alarms blaring across a city skyline. Fighter jets streak through the sky, missiles locked onto a massive target. On the ground, tanks and artillery position themselves, ready to strike. The world's most advanced military technology is aimed at a single creature, a towering monster that shouldn't exist. But as the first wave of attacks is launched, something terrifying happens. The missiles explode on impact, yet the creature keeps moving, unfazed. The tanks fire, the jets dive in for another strike, but nothing seems to stop it. In that moment, one question becomes painfully clear. Do we have any real way to fight back? Most people assume that if something like Godzilla appeared, the military would handle it without a problem. After all, we have weapons powerful enough to destroy entire cities. But history tells a different story. Even in modern warfare, conventional weapons don't always work as expected. In World War II, heavily armored tanks were nearly impervious to smaller weapons. In more recent conflicts, heavily fortified bunkers have withstood direct missile strikes. If a creature of unimaginable size had skin tough enough to resist gunfire, or the ability to heal rapidly, how much damage could we actually inflict before it reached a major city? And what about nuclear weapons? In the movies, Godzilla is sometimes born from nuclear radiation, even absorbing it to become stronger. But in reality, would dropping a nuclear bomb on such a creature even be an option? The destruction wouldn't just affect the monster. It would devastate everything around it, turning entire regions into radioactive wastelands. Could we justify that level of destruction just to take down a single target? Beyond the military, there's another issue: human panic. When disaster strikes, chaos spreads faster than any monster. Roads become jammed with fleeing civilians. Emergency services are overwhelmed, and misinformation makes everything worse. If a creature like Godzilla started moving toward a city, would governments even have time to react? Would evacuation plans be effective? Or would fear take over before any real strategy could be put in place? The truth is, we prepare for natural disasters, for wars, even for pandemics. But how do you prepare for something that defies everything we know? Maybe the real danger isn't just the creature itself, but how unprepared we would be to face it. If a real-life Godzilla appeared tomorrow, would humanity survive? Or would we become nothing more than a footnote in history? It's a terrifying thought, one that forces us to confront the limits of our own power. But maybe the real question isn't about survival. It's about whether we ever truly control the world we live in. For decades, Godzilla has been more than just a monster. It's a symbol of destruction, a reflection of human fears. When the first Godzilla movie was released in 1954, it wasn't just about a giant creature attacking a city. It was a warning, a response to the horrors of nuclear war. Over the years, Godzilla has evolved, sometimes portrayed as a force of nature, sometimes as a protector, but always as a reminder that there are things beyond our understanding, things we may never be able to stop. In reality, the chances of a Godzilla-like creature existing are almost zero. Biology, physics, and evolution all work against it. But that doesn't mean the world is safe. Natural disasters can strike with the same unstoppable force. Pandemics can spread faster than any monster. Wars can leave destruction just as devastating. And time again, we are reminded that for all our advancements, we are still vulnerable to the unknown. So maybe the real lesson of Godzilla isn't about fighting giant monsters. Maybe it's about how we respond to disaster itself. Will we panic, or will we adapt? Will we fall apart, or will we come together? Because in the end, the biggest threat we face isn't a creature rising from the ocean. It's our own ability to face the unimaginable and decide what happens next.